I think it's time we're brutally honest with ourselves. The reason our creative projects aren't getting done is because we're not taking action. We get stuck in a cycle of overthinking, which kills our momentum. Let me know if this sounds familiar. You've been working on a project and it's been sitting on your desk for days or weeks, and every time you look at it, you begin to overthink every word, every decision that has to go into that project. And every time you return to that project, you begin to question yourself. Is this good enough? Is it original enough? Is your message too aggressive? Or maybe you should just scrap the whole thing and start all over. Can you relate to this? Yeah, I know this feeling all too well. But the thing is that even though these feelings might have some truth to them, these thoughts are the things that are holding us back from achieving our creative goals. As creatives, we have the gift of coming up with 100 ideas for a new project. But we also have the curse of coming up with 101 reasons on why we shouldn't move forward. If you're like me, you want things to be perfect. You don't want to fail. But the thing that I've learned on my own creative journey is that the biggest failure is to not take any action at all. Look, every second that we spend overthinking or overanalyzing a project is a second taken away from actually creating that project into existence. So today I want to share with you some actionable tactics that you can use to break out of what's known as paralysis by analysis. The fear of making mistakes or not getting it right can be paralyzing. And especially if you're the one making the shots, that pressure can be even heavier. The truth is, perfectionism kills your momentum. And a large part of the creative process is just starting and experimenting. By taking action, this gives us an opportunity to learn, grow, and evolve, and improve ourselves. Recently, I worked on a dream project in Beaune, France. It was the type of project that I always dreamt about doing. It was an amazing location that allowed me to get some amazing shots. The whole trip was transformative. But now that I'm back, I'm struggling a little bit. I'm overwhelmed by all the thoughts and ideas that I have in my head. I wanted to make a YouTube video reflecting on this trip, but I got stuck on writing a script, wondering how do I capture all these feelings and ideas that I have. On top of that, I have so much going on in my personal life. I've moved into a new house and I have a bunch of projects that are on the horizon that I need to start thinking about. And with all these things, I can feel the pressure of starting this YouTube channel. I feel the pressure of needing to put out some fresh new content. Deep down inside, I know I just need to sit down and just do it. But easier said than done, right? So here's some tactics that I've used to help break out of that creative paralysis and to get that momentum going again. Number one, start small with writing. Writing is at the foundation of nearly everything that I create, especially when I find myself getting into a creative block. Whether it's writing with pen and paper in one of my journals or typing away in one of my many note-taking apps that I have, I know that I need to put some time aside and dedicate that to putting my thoughts onto the page. I often start with the process of free writing. This is where I write whatever comes to my mind. Sometimes I write about the current problem that I'm facing, like not being able to finish a YouTube script. In this process, I allow myself to overthink, to overanalyze, and to be critical. But then I also try to find creative solutions to those problems. I'm having a conversation with myself, with one voice being the overthinker and one voice being the creator. I let the critical side of me express itself, but then I really challenge myself to let that producer win and talk the critic out of not taking action. I learned this technique from Julia Cameron's book, The Artist's Way, where she talks about this exercise called the morning pages. Some of you may be familiar with this already, but for those of you who don't, this process is almost like a meditation. You're watching your thoughts as you write them down. sorting through the noise and focusing on the ideas that work, that are going to push you forward. Don't disregard the power of writing. It seems so simple, but almost every idea that I come up with, either for my personal projects or for clients, start with writing. My second tactic is to remember to play. Many creatives want to turn their passion into their profession. But in that process, we can tend to forget the sense of fun that originally brought us to this type of work in the first place. Your creative projects can feel like a burden and just another thing that we have to do on our growing to-do lists. So I'm someone who likes to play games. And when I play games, there's going to be these moments where we make mistakes and fail. And that's just part of the game. The challenge is what makes the game fun. If the game is too easy, then it becomes boring. If the game is too hard, then we can get frustrated and we don't want to play the game anymore. For example, one way that I'm doing it right now is that I'm going off script. I'm taking out the rigidness of the game and letting myself have a little bit more fun by just talking to the camera. The best work we do often comes when we have a sense of lightness to our work. I got this idea from Rick Rubin's book, The Creative Act, where he has this quote, which I'm going to read for you. The best work often comes when you're playing, when there's a lightness to what you're doing. There's no seriousness, there's no heavy expectations. The more you're having fun, the more your unique voice can come through. So if you feel like your creative work is becoming too serious or that your expectations of yourself are getting too high, then that's a good time to ask yourself, am I still having fun? If not, then it might be time to make some adjustments. This might be a good time to pull out that journal and have a conversation with yourself, because only you know what is going to make you feel fulfilled, what's going to bring that passion back, what's going to give you that energy to take action. My third tip, some of you probably don't want to hear this, but it's to work earlier in the day. If you can, try to work on your most important tasks on your creative projects first thing in the day. Like right now, it is the morning time. My kids have been dropped off at preschool, and I know that this time I have the most energy and I can take action on the most important things that I need to accomplish in my day. If you have the flexibility to work early in the day, then you too will find that you have more focus, more energy, and more clarity to finish your work. It's easier to get into that flow state that we all desire. There were times in my life where I thought I didn't have that flexibility, but I took ownership over this challenge that I had. And I knew that I worked better in the mornings. So I went to bed earlier and I woke up earlier. And at times I would wake up at 4 a.m. just to get a head start on my projects before I had to go work my normal 9-to-5 job. Giving myself those precious hours, I was really able to develop this sacred creative time that really pushed me forward on a lot of the projects that I had been sitting on for a long time. The reason I decided to try this out was because at the time I was reading Cal Newport's book, Deep Work. In this book, he talks a lot about how the mornings are this time where it's easier to get into focus and flow, and it's very well researched. I recommend it if this idea of waking up early speaks to you. But when we think about our days living in the modern world, we're constantly distracted. And the longer we go throughout our days, we're picking up more and more distractions. They're just accumulating on us. So often when I would do my deep work, I would do it before I even check my phone or check my email. I would just go straight into my work. At the end of the day, it was really hard for me to get any work done because I was tired. I had other obligations that I needed to take care of. And I was weighed down by all the distractions throughout the day. I had all these things in the back of my mind. So if I could get a head start at the beginning of the day and get these important tasks done, it really set me up to win for the rest of the day. Tip number 4 is for real dire situations, and it's a mixture of the 5-second rule mixed with the Pomodoro timer. So just bear with me on this one. It may seem super simple and you may think this doesn't work for me, but just try to give it a shot. So to break down these two parts, there's the 5-second rule, which comes from Mel Robbins, and that's just simply counting down from 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, 0. And when you get to 0, no matter what, you have to start. This simple action helps interrupt any sort of hesitation that you may have that would lead to procrastination. And when I got to 0, I would start my Pomodoro timer or any timer for 25 minutes with a 5-minute break afterwards. By setting this timer, you're creating a sense of urgency where you have to focus on getting your tasks done. And this 25 minutes is not a big enough amount of time to seem like a daunting task. It actually makes the task at hand more manageable. When I really get stuck, I rely on this technique, and I'll find that in the first 25 minutes, all I'm doing is really just kind of going through the motions of setting up the project and getting ready to work on it. Then I have my 5-minute break. Then I come back for another 25 minutes. It's much easier for me to get into work now that I've kind of set that momentum forward. Sometimes it takes a few rounds of this to really get deep into a project, but I usually find after the 3rd, 4th, or 5th time, I'm already deep into the project and I'm not even relying on the timer anymore. Then I'm working in hours. And if 25 minutes seems even too daunting for you, then just try 15 minutes. Or 10 minutes, or even 5, just to get your project going. Working in these small digestible sprints can really help you get that upward momentum to getting that project off the ground. And number 5 is more of a long-term practice. It's consistency over perfection. Ultimately, the key to overcoming creative paralysis is consistency. It's showing up every day, whether you feel like it or not, to do your work. The more you show up, the easier it becomes to get through those tougher days. This is the key takeaway from Steven Pressfield's book, The War of Art, where he calls this creative paralysis resistance. Pressfield describes resistance as this invisible internal force that prevents us from pursuing our creative, entrepreneurial, and personal growth. And the only way to beat resistance is to show up consistently and push through the discomfort. There's a real power to showing up consistently and honoring your own creativity by giving it a chance every single day to be expressed. So if you're feeling stuck right now, take this as a sign to get started. Use some of these tactics that I've talked about. Start small. Do anything that will move you forward. Don't wait for that perfect moment or that perfect idea. Progress is made through action, not by waiting. I hope this video has helped you out, and let me know below in the comments, what are you putting on the back burner because you're overthinking? And what do you plan to do to tackle it?